why do I need a title company involved when I'm purchasing a home? Well, we have Corinne here from Trident Land, and she's going to explain what a title company does and why it's important for you as a buyer to have a good title company involved in your transaction. Go ahead, Corinne. What does a title company do? Why do I need one?
Hi, I'm Corinne from Trident Land. So as a buyer, when you do have title insurance, it covers all the property, all the land, taxes, liens, estates, mortgages, payoffs. If there is anything on the property, we are the ones who clear the entire title. So if that property was in a list pendant or foreclosure or short sale, anything like that, if they had outstanding taxes, outstanding mortgage, the title company is one who does all those searches and makes sure that the home is free and clear of any liens or encumbrances or anything on the property that's going to affect the buyer on the upcoming months. Anything with the outside, the title company covers. So if in the past there was a mortgage that wasn't paid off or anything like that, the title company would make sure to get it recorded, and so that the buyer would be buying the home free and clear of anything on the property.
So this is also to make sure that, I don't know, crazy Uncle Lou doesn't say, wait a minute, you can't sell that. I was promised I have an interest in that home or
Correct.
whatever.
Correct. So we double check everything to make sure the sellers are who they say they are. We have to have licenses and 2 certificates now, so whether that's a birth certificate or something else showing. Then we do a title search that goes back to 30 to 60 years showing. Sometimes there is an estate, which would go hand in hand with what Fred had said, which happens where more than one person does have interest in the home. We do closings like that as well to make sure that it is actually their home. Usually when you do a search, you would see everyone from the past years who has owned the home. And when you have title insurance, somebody cannot just come and now say, hey, I own this home from 10 years ago, when the new buyer is there, because everything is free and clear on the property and now it belongs to the new buyers.
Now, speaking of checking stuff out, recently there have been a lot of scams that are going on where someone's trying to sell something that they don't own.
Correct.
How do you interface and help protect me as a buyer or a seller that somebody's not selling my home and I didn't even know about it?
So we have 2 different apps now. We have Trident Land Transfer One, and then there's other apps that do a verified ID. We physically call the sellers, especially the sellers. A lot of times the scams are with land. So they'll try to email you or text you and say, hey, I want to sell this property. Then we have to look into everything, do a tax search, pull up the deed, pull up the background information, municipal search and county search, showing who is the actual owner. And we have to physically get them on the phone to make sure that that is the actual seller that's selling to the buyer and it's not a scam person. Also, as the agent, we'll normally meet them as well.
All right. Now, as the title company, you also handle the funds that are being distributed and received. Now, how do I make sure that my money is not also being sent somewhere where it shouldn't?
So for us, we verify all the wire instructions or do an overnight check. So if the buyer is wiring funds in, I have to physically speak to the buyer and they have to go through a secure portal. Because of fraud, that's the only way that they can send it now. Or if it's a seller, then they fill out a disbursement authorization, which will have all their banking information, their license, and I have to also speak to them on the phone to verify the wire before we're allowed to send out any type of funds.
All right, so you do a lot of things. What are some of the costs involved with a title company representing me? Again, I'm the buyer, so I select the title company, and you provide these services. What other elements are involved in that and what kind of costs are associated with it?
So we have this app here that you can also do the cost here. You would input, let's say, what the home price is. So let's say here, I did $600,000, interest rate 6.75, broker fee I did split, 30-year term. Now here you can add if you were getting a seller's concession. So let's say they receiving $1,000. Homeowners insurance is calculated, taxes are calculated. City transfer tax is only the seller. So that will be changed. And let's say we did a closing date around 6/27. So you can bring it up here. Let's see. And then it's going to show a roundabout what you would have to bring to close and your estimate for monthly payments. Here's your detailed closing costs. So what is entitled with title insurance, we collect all the fees if you have a lender, so all of that will be on here. Then your charge for a title policy, notary fee, copies, pretty much across the board, title insurance are the same fees. Where it will change is depending on your lender fees, if there's a broker fee for the lender or anything like that. And then here it will break down every single fee, top to bottom. Total closing costs around $20,724 here.
So how far in advance do I receive something like that as a buyer so I know exactly what it's going to cost me and how much I have to bring to the table, if at all anything?
So if you have a lender, usually they have to give you a prelim from the lender at least a few weeks in advance. You could always use this app. And a CD has to go out at least pretty much with final
CD,
numbers.
what is a CD?
So a CD would be a disclosure showing what the buyer would have to bring cash to close, what their interest rate, their loan, taxes, everything else included from the lender. And that would show at least 3 days before what the buyer would have to bring for funds.
So you figure taxes based on the closing date. So I may have to pay taxes or the seller may get some money back?
Correct.
Based on?
Depending on when you're closing, sometimes you'll reimburse the seller since they're quarterly in New Jersey. Or sometimes, so we're going into third quarter. Right now, only the buyer pays third quarter. And the seller will get reimbursed from the previous quarter.
All right, so for those that may be senior citizens, do they get any breaks or any discounts?
They get a transfer discount. As long as they're 62 and over, then transfer tax, they get a discount.
Okay, now here we are in mid-June, and rumor has it that in July 1st, there may be an increase in the transfer tax for a home at $1 million or more,
Yes.
and then at $2 million or more. So right now, in the middle of June, if a home is sold for $1,100,000, there is a 1% additional tax.
So there's always been mansion tax. It was always 1%. They call it luxury tax now. And now it's increasing to 2 and 3% depending on. So everything that's going to be closing the end of June, the buyer will have to pay that difference.
All right, so the proposed law says right now it's 1%, anything over $1 million. The proposed law says from 1 million to 2 million, that's going to be 2%.
2%.
And from 2 million above,
Is going to be 3.
it's going to be 3%.
Yes,
Now, who pays that?
the buyer.
Now, is that something that can be shared with buyer and seller?
I mean, I don't see why not if that's something agreed with the seller. I've seen mansion tax be done like that before. If they agree, 1-2 first do your contract, if it states on there.
All right, so that is proposed, and it sure sounds like that's going to happen in New Jersey.
As far as we know, yes.
All right, so we're talking again June 13th, 2025. This is supposed to take place in July.
Correct. And
Now-
with that is, normally that's not something we would collect because we do it on the day of closing. But how they're working it out is they're going by when the deed is getting recorded, which changes things a little bit because get a deed recorded in New Jersey can take up to a few weeks.
Okay.
So they're going by the recording date.
Right. Another thing people hear about is the exit tax. And I know it's not really called an exit
No.
tax, but can you explain to our folks what is this exit tax and what it really is?
Sure, there's different taxes. So you'll have a transfer tax. That's what they call exit tax. That's just based on your home. Everyone pays that. The only time that you're paying a different type of tax is if you don't live in the state. So if I have a home, but I haven't been living at this home for years, then you're paying a non-resident New Jersey tax, which is different. And a lot of people get them confused. And you're paying that because you own this home, but you're not living at that home.
So if I have a home in New Jersey and I'm selling it and I'm going to be moving to Florida, do funds get held back from my sale because I'm no longer going to be a Jersey resident and I'm going to Florida, or that makes no
Nope.
difference?
Makes no difference. The only time it'll make a difference, a lot of people will sell and then they're moving. The only time it'll make a difference if they know that this was an investment property and these sellers have not been living here for a long time. Especially because if they change the license and everything already, the license has to match your address. So if you're changing your license already, then there's no way to say, oh, well, this was their home. You have to match them together.
Okay. And some people live in one state for a number of months and in another state for a number of months. In your end of it, from the title company, what would be considered your primary residence? How long do you have to maintain residency or be in that house?
Each state is different.
Okay.
So it depends how they took title and how they took their deed or mortgage, which one was their primary residence and which one is not.
So in New Jersey, if I have a home down at the beach and I have a home in Florida, I can claim either one as my primary residence?
Usually it will say which one on there as your primary residence. Which one have you lived at longer?
All right, and you have to spend a certain amount of days of the year at one home versus
Correct.
the other in order for it to be called your primary residence.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other things that we should know about title insurance and what a title company does?
I would say right now, it's very good to be going through any title, even for a seller, to be looking up stuff because it's really big with fraud right now for land. We've had a few instances where people are saying it's their land and it is not. So for everyone to just be calling in and double checking with everything, give us a call. Anyone can reach us, phone number, email, stop in, whatever is easier. Just make sure you're checking out everything as the agents, as a lawyer, anything like that. Fraud is really big right now. People are getting things in the mail all the time stating, oh, you can pay $25, you'll get your deed, you'll get this, you'll get that. So a lot of scams going on right now.
So I don't have to pay extra to get my deed as part of the closing cost. When it gets filed, I'm going to get
Correct.
a copy, and that's going to be sent to me by...
Usually by the county, and that will be sent by the county with that and your title insurance policy.
Okay. Well, great, Corinne. So if anybody has questions about title insurance, they can reach out to you
Yes,
with Trident Land,
correct.
and you're located in?
This one is Princeton, but we're all over. But this one is 253 Nassau Street in Princeton, New Jersey.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Remember, who you work with matters, and Corinne would be somebody that you may want to work with.
Thank you, Fred.